How do you do it?
What?
You saw it in my hand. It's like,
all meeting.
Yeah, we're here.
Fine, great. We're on. Here we go. Bada bing, bada boom. First of all, hello, welcome. Welcome back to the Finance Committee
I
meeting.
missed you all terribly.
We missed you. We missed you. Okay, so after last week's informal president, at the informal meeting at the president report, I would think I would be remiss if we did not put this at the top of the agenda for the Finance Committee on Monday, today. So just to go over a few things, and just a few, open this up for discussion, highlight some key issues. And what I would like to take out of this is at least some action items, like maybe you have an idea, other people have an idea of what the council can actually do to mitigate, the foreseeable future, which is not looking so bright. That's you, but and to see if we really are facing a fiscal bankruptcy next year.
I do not think that is a true statement, no.
Okay, fair enough. And then let's start with.
What did you say? I said, I do not think we are, facing bankruptcy next year.
Great.
I'm not sure how that got parlayed into anything, but
All right. So where exactly are we, and what do we need, and what do we need to do?
well, I mean, it's obviously a loaded question, and I didn't know I was coming here until like a day ago, so I
Yes,
didn't
fair
have a
enough.
whole lot of time. And I'm also just gonna say, we're still in the middle of transitioning toward new software, and it's a little quirky. They haven't gotten all the bugs out of it yet. So I tried to do a couple things. And I think probably the most useful thing that I did was I took, and I can send copies of this to you and anybody else who wants some later, but I literally just finished this 2 minutes ago. So what I did is I pulled 2023 numbers and 2024 numbers, at least where we are today in 24. And I did a comparison to see where the fundamental changes were. And I think that that is important for a few reasons, because it'll give you a sense of, what's happening here. So basically, year to year for revenue, we're only up about $365,000.
Okay.
I'm sorry, year to year for what? Revenues, we're up about 365. But remember, there's at least 710,000, and it may be more than that, because that's the chips and things that weren't submitted for reimbursement on a timely basis. So I don't believe we can record those as revenue in 24, but we will be getting them as revenue in 25. So that's just going to wash. As I'm going through this, it looks like there may be some other grants that we expended more money than we have been reimbursed for. I saw another one that I was surprised. I think the comprehensive plan is up to like 160,000 spent in 2024, but we've only got like 58,000 of that. So that's like another $50,000, $60,000. So it's probably close to $1 million of revenue that's just going to be delayed.
Okay.
So that brings you back down to like roughly $1 million, right, over where we were before. So I just did a quick glance at some of the expenditures.
Okay, I'm just gonna make a note of that.
I think that is something we discussed over and over, that it was the, our receivables are behind, because that's the way grants pay us back.
Well, it's yes and no. There's two different things. Basically, for the most part, we have to book revenue when the grant submission is made. So whether or not we get the money. So then that does become a receivable.
Yeah.
In the case of the CHIPS thing, it was just missed entirely. It should have been submitted in 2024. It wasn't. I noticed that we had the revenue, but not, like, we had the expenditures, but no revenue, and checked with Rob. Turned out he had not submitted the stuff on time. It was so far, my belief is that it was so far into 2025 by the time it was discovered.
And how much was that?
710.
700.
Mhm.
Okay.
So in that case, it was just missed, but we caught it. But
Yeah,
I think from an accounting perspective, it just depends on when we can record it as revenue, as opposed to what it will be in 2024, which is deferred revenue. And like I said, there does appear that there are some more. Yeah, I'm just looking at the comprehensive plan right now. We incurred almost $166,000 in expenditures in 24, and I know that we've only got like $60,000 of reimbursements. So it gets really tricky at the end of the year because, you're incurring all these expenses, but you can't get the thing into state necessarily on time. So there are things, there's a 60-day look back. So if there was a grant reimbursement submitted for the balance of that, say in the first 60 days of 2025, I could charge that back. But as far as I know, that hasn't been submitted. At least if it has, nobody's told me about it. So there will be a few other things like that that I think will be coming in to offset some of these expenses that are hitting in 24, but we're not going to get the revenue until 25. So that's the 710 plus probably another 50 here. So probably close to $1 million.
You had an unrestricted fund balance number that was under 2 million. So these revenues that we're talking about here, that would go against that unrestricted fund balance, correct?
Yes, it would increase it by roughly that amount. Yeah.
That's what puts it over the threshold, the minimum required threshold.
Yes.
For the two, whatever.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, great.
So I did take a look and just tried to scan some of the things, because it's also tricky when you're looking at the budget, because it looks like the revenue's gone up, but the revenue's gone up because grant revenue's gone up and expenditures have gone up correspondingly. I mean, we know a lot of that was in the $5 million increase in the last 5 years, but there are some definite noticeable things. I'm just going to go through some of the major ones that I highlighted. I mean, we talked about the comprehensive plan. We talked about the study of truck traffic, because I don't think we got the reimbursement for that. There was
what was that? That was not much, the study.
like 32,000. Yeah. We had the I don't know how to describe it, the payout for the Philly family after Officer Philly's death. That was $160,000. So that's obviously a one-time thing.
Sorry, which reimbursement are you looking for on truck? Because we had money left in the truck study.
Oh, you're right. Nope, I take that one back. We had already got those
We
funds.
still have about 12,000.
Yeah, and that's been encumbered to the next
That
year.
we use either for speeding lights.
The signs,
Right.
the caution signs, yeah.
For signage around the trucks.
Yep.
We're getting the pricing on it.
Yeah, I take that one back because that was one of the few grants that we got the money in advance.
Yeah.
So it gets really tricky because then you've got to remember which ones you got the revenue for and didn't, and it's starting to get overwhelming, to be honest with you. We're seeing some basic increases over time, like our IT support is just going up, it's not a huge amount, but the police budget, the police actuals were almost $300,000 higher in 2024 than they were in 2023. A lot of that was equipment. they budgeted for, they moved money out of some accounts and put it in budgeted for 2 cars. So arguably that would be ideally a one-time expense. I mean, I know they'd like to use cars on the regular, but,
And is that all, sorry, is that all budgeted? Or is that like unanticipated or anticipated?
it was not originally budgeted, and then they made a budget amendment request,
Gotcha.
which the council approved. So, but I'm just saying, like, there's almost 200,000 of that 300,000 were 2 vehicles that they purchased. You know, it's one of those things that we've talked about before is, should we be buying things like that straight out? I mean, or do you finance them? I mean, if you finance them, you're paying unnecessarily, interest. But on the other hand, the annual hits are more consistent. That's a policy thing. And then obviously their personal services line went up also by about 70 grand just year to year. Fire had, money set aside for their boat, so that was a one-time thing, so that's increasing in 2025. A couple of the other big things are retirement and social security, and so if you put those together, that's about another 200,000. Debt service is 300,000. This is just year to year, a $300,000 increase year to year in debt service. So between just those items, that's like 800,000 out of the $1 million that we're talking about here.
$100,000 increase from the previous year.
$300,000 increase, and this is what we talked about before. So the good news is, we all panic. The good news is that for the most part, that increase in debt service is going to be temporary / short term, because it's the DRI primarily and some other things. So once the projects are done, whatever we have, if there's any costs left, it will be not very large, and we'll finance that. There shouldn't be though, because we should be spending within the DRI budget. I don't know about that last thing I just saw today.
There was 174,000. We have a resolution for DRI. You see that?
I saw that today.
What is
I
this?
did not see where he indicated where the funding for that was going to come from. So I don't know if there's enough money left in the DRI pool to cover that, or whether the city's going to have to come out of pocket for that. And I didn't have a chance to ask him today, because
Could we know by tomorrow, please?
I can ask him, yeah. But the other things to remember about the debt service are it's temporary. So much of that will be going away. To give you an idea, the other issue is because these projects have been going on for so long because of COVID and other delays, that the method by which you borrow, basically we were going out and doing short-term borrowing called the bond anticipation note, right? You borrow it for a year, you pay it back, you pay whatever interest, you're done. Except that we've had to refinance and roll them over multiple times. Problem with that is, after the first year, you have to start paying the principal down. So now we're paying principal on a loan that was never supposed to have principal paid against it, because it was supposed to be funded by the DRI grant monies. So to put that in perspective, in 2024 alone, we had to pay $330,000 in principal against the DRI project. I looked it up, and I did a quick calculation after we talked last time, and I didn't bring it with me because I don't remember, but I remember we were talking about how much the free DRI money has cost us so far. And I was actually underestimating it. It's actually, I think through 2024, we've spent between principal and interest $1.1 million. And we're going to have to refinance stuff again for next year, because even though the DRI project's going to be done in spring, we have no idea whether we're going to get the reimbursement for that. A bit of good news is that, give you an example, that it took like 23 months to get one of our first big DRI reimbursements. It took us almost 2 years to get that. So that was $1 million. We put in one in, I want to say March of 2024. that we didn't get until February of 2025, so that was just under a year. But we did put in one very recently for over $2 million, and that was reimbursed within like 2 months. So that was obviously great, but we just don't know how long that's gonna take, and, you know, we don't have enough to cover that spread without borrowing. So it's just, I mean, it's still, you know, as I keep saying, would you spend 1.5 million to get 10 million? Yeah, but if we weren't
Comes down.
anticipating any costs.
And there is one more resolution about the sewage, right?
About the what?
About the sewage system, the,
Hold on a second, I have one other question on the DRI. So, but are we financing the entire DRI even though the city isn't, has all the $10 million of projects? Or
No. We're only financing the city projects, and we're trying to only borrow so we didn't borrow for everything up front. We waited until
Gotcha.
the bigger project's gonna kick off before we borrowed that. Same thing with Ferry Street Bridge. It's not a DRI project, but we're anticipating virtually 100% of that will be reimbursed unless the federal government gets funky. But again, we still have to do short-term borrowing, so we have the cash flow, and so that ends up costing us money too.
So this is several $100,000 just on funding the projects that we like money off or not even. Right, okay.
and what is the interest we're paying?
I don't
It
know off the
varies.
top of my head. I want to say it's roughly, I think the last time we went, it was roughly 3.5%.
Yeah, that's after shopping around different banks, how do we do that?
Yeah, no, we have a financial advisor. We go on the bond market. It's all, you know, people like large, you know, institutional investors bid. We put a whole bid package together, and
Okay,
yeah, so.
but 3.5 is still a lot.
Right. Okay, I'm sorry, you wanted to talk about.
I think, yeah, we spoke about.
City project.
I need more detail. I don't know what you're referencing.
It's a resolution, I
You're
think,
done with the first phase,
yes. I think it's at the first page.
16 million
Yeah,
project. This is the 3-phase project.
You did a bond, you did an adjusted bond resolution last month to increase the total project, phase 1 project cost 66 million, I believe. Yep.
so is this advisable to overtake now?
I mean, the sewer fund's its own fund, so it depends. I don't think we have a choice, you know? I mean, I think.
How much of that is tied to federal? That's 60 million.
I do not know that.
I think we need to figure that out. And maybe try to talk to the state, to the governor's office, to see what their approach is in the event that you have an infrastructure project and then the feds fail on what they're supposed to pay. Is it the Massachusetts case that I'm following? The state is backing up the school districts and telling them to continue with their reimbursement requests, and then they'll take the bite to Washington to get the money back. But I think we should have some sense of our exposure on that.
Yeah, for sure.
And then talk to governor's office or try to get some reassurance from New York State that with major projects like this, that there is a backstop.
So we had talked about a grant administrator at some point. Should that still be on the table?
Yes.
And would a grant administrator then go like, look into this issue?
Exactly.
Yeah, is this something we can't, like a part-time grant administrator for hire for this year? No. Yeah,
I mean,
okay,
given the way the budget's going, I would probably say not.
so until we have the answers to these questions between Margaret and about the DRI, maybe we need, is it okay to hold on the resolutions before voting for them tomorrow? Is there an urgency in your knowledge
For the
to
sewer,
vote for those 2 resolutions? There are 2 resolutions, right, guys?
oh, the one amending the arterial contract
Yeah.
that Rob sent, and then the other one, which I
Mhm.
don't think I've seen. That's a question for Rob. I mean.
Yeah, I'm saying if you don't have the answers, I think maybe we need to hold on them if there's not a lot of urgency. We
Well,
need to know.
I
for
can't
sure.
speak to the urgency.
Yeah.
Of the thing. You'd have to check with Rob and find
Yeah.
out,
Should call around.
or have him come.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, you have to remember, and I'm not saying that this isn't going to become its own issue, but the sewer fund is a separate fund, so it has no impact on the general fund and all the stuff we're talking about. The real issue with that is, you know, that basically means that whatever is remaining of that $68 million, based on one conversation that I was involved in, I think they're anticipating that roughly 10 million of that will be left, that will have to be debt. So the question is, what's that gonna do to water sewer rates and or leachate processing? Because that's where the revenue comes from. Yeah, so of the $66 million, I saw a document that was from the engineer who's also, their grant admin and does all of that stuff. And don't quote me, because even though I know we're in a public meeting, because it's not in front of me, but my recollection is that they were anticipating that out of that $68 million, they'd probably able to get about 58 million of that covered with grants.
Yeah, it's the 10 million, yeah.
But I'm not sure that can be right, because 25 million of the $50 million EFC grant is a 0% loan. So I think it must be on top of that. But in any case, the point is, we're not going to have to finance long-term the entire 68 million. There's going to be a significant amount of grants to go against it. Whatever the difference between the grant amount and the total cost is, will have to go into long-term financing. But that financing will be funded solely from the sewer fund. So what are the sewer fund revenue sources? Water, sewer, water rents, sewer rents, leachate processing.
So they need to go up,
So they will probably, they will.
but they probably quite a lot in
Yeah.
order to meet that.
But again, I
Just
don't
saying.
think it's, my sense, and I'm not the expert in this area at all, but my sense is this isn't really optional. This is like the state
Right.
telling us, you gotta fix your shit, no pun intended.
Should we have a conversation with Rob prior to tomorrow's meeting?
You talk to Rob?
I'll talk to Rob. Yeah, I mean, do you think you can find out about the exposure on the sewer?
Well, I think we need to have a conversation with the state, but I think that, like you say, it's not really an optional situation over. But I think we should definitely be trying to speak to governor's office and asking questions about what kind of backup do we get from the state to the climate that we're in. But I don't think, that's not something like where you're gonna have a conversation and have an answer in 24
I
hours.
don't think we
Right.
have an answer unless nobody knows.
But I think we should be lobbying to make sure that, that municipality is gonna be taken care of.
Maybe you should do a resolution. Send it to I'm not kidding. I mean, you do resolutions for all sorts of things,
Yeah,
saying,
sounds
hey,
good.
state, we think you should do this. Why don't you do that? I mean, am I saying it's gonna make any difference? No,
Not-
but still, you'd have it on record as
Yeah.
trying to.
But I think also, doesn't hurt for us to work some of the relationships that we have at the state level. And we'll get further with that.
Yeah.
By just trying to make sure that our voices are going to be heard when they're going to divvy up what they're going to divvy up.
Yeah, and someone has to know where all the money comes from. Someone has to know, someone.
No, what I'm saying, Rich, is, pieces of these things, the feds are involved in a lot of those. What I'm saying is we need to be lobbying to make sure that we have friends with the state who will have our backs in the event that something.
Something comes from. All right, do you want to do that lobbying?
Sorry?
Do you want to do that lobbying?
Yes, I'm not.
All right, there you go, boom, done. All right. Other outstanding issues. The outstanding property taxes.
Yes,
Okay, what is this current status?
I told Tom that I would have a resolution for you guys tomorrow. I haven't been able to get into the collection system to run it, so I will make sure I get that done tomorrow. But it's kind of a move, well, actually, this is a thing for discussion. We can't really do much of anything until we get an attorney assigned to it.
Okay,
So why can't we get an attorney assigned?
I do not,
I know you don't do it.
no, I said I don't know,
No, but I also know that's not your responsibility.
but what we could do at least, so we do send out, at the end of every year, December of every year, we send out a delinquent letter. It's just a, looks like it's from 1965. It comes out of our old collection software, but we do send that out to everybody that's got delinquent taxes. We wait until we get the old school taxes that we are now forced to collect. And then we issue it after that. The only thing it doesn't cover is if people have an installment agreement and that's delinquent because the system doesn't pick it up. What we could do, and I'm not opposed to doing this at all, although I'm not sure I have the budget for it, is even though we can't necessarily start the legal proceedings and the official filing with the county and all of that, we could issue a letter, like from my office, that basically says the city has agreed to start foreclosure process. This resolution was approved on X date. Here's the amount that you owe. If you, standard language, maybe with a little more sort of oomph, then.
I don't
than
think
the
it's gonna
generic
do
one.
much, so if the other letter didn't do all these years. So what is next? Why this is not moving? What is the reason?
Because it's a legal process and I need an attorney assigned to it who will
okay.
take it through. It was assigned to an attorney back in the day before COVID. And then obviously in COVID, we couldn't do anything. That's how long it's been outstanding. And then I was in touch with them again briefly. And then apparently the person that was working on it at the legal firm was no longer with the firm. And they basically said, we're going to give it back to you. So
How about that other attorney, that
the one that
company?
you, so my understanding at this point is that Andy has asked him to work on the 98 Paddock Place.
Oh,
the
does
eviction?
that, can he work from both of that company? I mean, they're a good,
I would think so, but I mean,
you
I
said
will,
you would think so? What, I couldn't hear.
you asked if they could work on both, and I said I would think so, yes. But
Okay,
they have to
so-
be engaged to do it. So I will reach out to Andy again. I will tell him that we've had this discussion again and ask him if I think he wanted to see how it was going to work, but,
Yeah, if you want to CC the finance committee too in your email to Ann.
Okay.
Because I really feel at this point, that law firm can take
I
it.
think Heather's suggestion of sending out a more strongly worded letter is not a bad one.
We can try it.
I mean, you're talking, I don't know, I couldn't even estimate how much postage and mailing and stuff, but it's not gonna be that much. I think it's worth trying,
Yeah.
just because the one that we do send out in the system is not really a compelling document. It really looks like something out of an old 1970 software thing. But if it was on letterhead, and basically said that this is starting, and, we've done that in the past before generally, but I've gone through this exactly once since I've been here. But it's like, I'll
I
send.
just think it delays the process at the end and nothing's gonna happen. We just need to have the law firms go at them, it's letters here, letters there.
Yeah,
They're not gonna do anything.
I'm-
We need to be firm on this and move forward.
Yeah,
That's all.
I agree, but
Yeah,
I'm just trying to.
no, it's fine. We
mitigate.
can try it, in the meantime. I mean, how many are they? How
I
how many
don't know.
letters?
20?
20?
No, there's gonna be a lot more than that.
Is the same property since pre-COVID?
Yeah.
Or more have been averaged?
I would have to run the
Yeah,
report
okay,
again.
fair enough.
That's what I'm gonna do for tomorrow, but
And all that's is always with interest?
yes, yes. But again, just as a reminder, that's not gonna increase revenue. Revenue's already been booked. What it
yeah.
will do is two things. It will obviously give us more cash flow back, which would be very useful because it's getting
Mhm, mhm.
and there's also this. Much like we can't record the grant revenue, there's also this other thing called deferred tax revenue, and it's this elaborate calculation, but basically the bigger it gets, it has to be offset somewhere, so it gets offset, you'll see in the budget line of like prior year's taxes, that's basically the offsetting line. So the higher that number goes, the more it, in a weird way, it's just from an accounting perspective, so it's kind of hard to explain, but it sort of deflates what revenue appears to be. So it would also help that problem. And just that you were asking about how many, I don't know how many, but if I remember correctly, last time we went through this was roughly 2016. I think we started with either 83 or 103 parcels, somewhere in that range. We actually foreclosed on 12. So, you know, once people start realizing that action is going to be taken, they either come in and they pay, they enter into a payment plan with us, or they sell their property and walk away with.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be dramatic, and we'll see the difference, because usually people will have the money to pay it. And the reason why they don't pay it is because they don't have the money.
So, what you were saying about the back taxes, only the tax part goes into the revenue line? Right?
Yes,
So the
penalties and interest would be,
where do they go?
they would be new revenue.
Excuse me?
They would be new revenue.
That would be new revenue.
Yep.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, yep. I got it now.
But that's a good point, because that's probably not an insignificant amount of money.
Heather, isn't it true that when we publish the list tomorrow, that'll bring in a lot of those people?
To the extent that people pay attention to it.
Yeah, well, it'll be in the paper, wouldn't it?
No,
It's normally in the paper, isn't it?
No. Nope.
Those pages in the back where they print the list of delinquent taxes.
I've never done that,
I think that's from the county.
but
I don't think salaries do.
I think the county is also working on a foreclosure process for taxes as well.
well, theirs is pretty regular. I mean, they've got their own assigned attorney. They've got like a person dedicated to just doing that. And they do like foreclosure sales on a pretty regular basis, multiple times throughout the year. I mean, we can, I assume, print it. I don't
But we did that in the past, okay.
know, but
That was part of the idea of getting it done.
another thing I don't have in my budget, by the way,
What's that?
printing costs for publishing the list. Just saying.
So can anyone ask a question, or is this a closed session?
I can, well, if I say,
Oh, yeah, you did chair.
yes, I'm sure, yes, go ahead. Yes.
So I'm being the Trixie,
What's your question?
wonderful chair.
Thank you.
Why was this only done now, this list that Tom speaks of? Hasn't it been out there for many years?
Why, only done now?
The list
Building
of
over-
delinquents?
Yeah.
Basically because it doesn't have a lot of value if you can't process it through the legal system. And we have had trouble having an attorney get assigned to the process, and we are still trying to get an attorney assigned to the process. So we, as a municipality, can only take it so far. I mean, I'm certainly not willing to take the legal risk of trying to do it myself, because I don't have the legal expertise to go through the court system. So
And you can't ask the company that's doing it for the county to see if they have more time.
I have reached out to the county and not had a response.
Oh, so you don't know the law.
Yeah, the county's in-house counsel.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So just a follow-up on my question, is just like, again, much to Tom's dismay, on the family day where they were going to say, don't know how America works. Why was this not done 2 and 4 years ago when Kamal became mayor? Like, whose job is it to say, like, someone has to pay taxes, let's go get their taxes? Is it your job? Is it Trixie's job? Is it Tom's job? Is it Kamal's job? Is it,
It would be my job to raise the issue, and it was raised, and it's been raised several times, but, you know, if you're talking specifically about the last 4 years, you also have to remember that almost immediately after that term started, we had COVID.
Yeah.
And then there were legal restrictions on what we could do, so
so over the last 2 years, when you raised it to say Tom or to Mayor Kamal, like, what happened the next day? Like, why couldn't this happen like 2 years ago or a year ago? Or 6 months ago?
well, again,
Who hires the lawyer?
it would be the mayor's office.
Gotcha. Okay.
Could Kamal not hire the lawyer, or they not have the money to hire the lawyer?
It has been challenging to get an attorney that is willing to handle Hudson foreclosures because of some things that happened in the past. So I think that is part of it. part of it is that we did have an attorney that was working on these for several years, pre-COVID, and then obviously COVID just went, made everything go away. And they kind of declined to pursue going any further. So that's kind of where we are. We've tried to identify a couple other alternatives. I've literally asked in finance meetings if people know and got some recommendations and,
Okay, thank you. I know you've been working on this, and I'm sorry if the city has a bad reputation with vendors that don't want to serve the city. That's not your fault.
All right, we're gonna focus back there, folks. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
I had,
That's very, very helpful.
yes.
But again, a lot of what's happening in 24 and will probably continue to an extent in 25, not necessarily long term. So, and then the hope is some of the things. Yes. Mm-hmm.
I had one other question. Vacancy fees.
Mm-hmm.
Have we collected vacancy fees in the past? Do you know?
Not to my knowledge. Maybe there was 1 year once. I think that's it.
And it's Craig Hayes.
That's very good.
I've asked. So. So we'll see.
Just to make a point though, it's not unheard of to have a few years to get foreclosure money. It usually does take a long time.
Yeah, I mean,
And
it's
if
all
you add
dictated
this
by real estate
COVID,
law,
yeah, I
so.
mean, this is not all, this is all makes sense.
Yeah.
I remember you raised it many times. You did tell us many times in the last 4 years I'm here. So it's nothing that you didn't.
Oh, I was waving the flag. I just can't.
Okay.
Hold on.
So are there any other action items, like for instance, is there any other action items? We had talked about increasing the number of lodging days from 60
Yes, I think,
to,
I think if we can, there's a provision in the short-term rental law that only allows individuals to, who have it, already this is the second one, they must reside here for at least 50 days a year, and then they cannot rent out their property for more than 60 days.
Right.
That seems kind of arbitrary. So I think anything that we can do to improve our lodging tax revenue would be a boon. So I think we need to look at changing that to say 180 days, something like that.
It should go up. I mean, since all the fees go up, it should have more days. I don't know what's the magic number, but I think it should be at least 120 days. And see how it goes. I don't think it will affect the rentals. I really don't.
yeah, I mean, it's probably a problem. But
Especially not
Yeah,
affordable.
That's something.
it's something.
And I think the other thing to also keep in mind, just thinking about going forward, is again, 24, 25, 26 all may be a little wonky because of some of the timing issues, but we will eventually get more pilot income because there are more pilots being approved by the IEA, and the city will get a distribution of that. We will presumably get more lodging tax because there are hotels that are in the process of being developed. You might have been off on the timing, but the fact is that it will be there. I'm very intrigued to see what the cannabis tax is going to come in at, because
That was higher than we expected last year. I think,
no,
the first couple of months.
I wouldn't say it was higher than we expected, no. But we really haven't gotten anything solid for like our 2025 number, so I think once we get the first payout on that, that'll be indicative too, because.
So in terms of the pilot, if there's the idea, which is now considering the pilot for the depot district. So if that gets approved, if that pilot gets approved, what actually happens?
In terms of the city,
Yes.
basically, there's a payment schedule,
Mm-hmm.
and the IDA gets that payment.
Mm-hmm.
And then the IDA distributes it to the taxing jurisdictions, the city of Hudson, Columbia County, and the school district, based on the share on their mill rates. So basically, school district gets a bit, we get like 3/4 of the other half, and the county gets the rest.
Any other questions?
No, it's not really on the pilot money. The one that's opening in July, that has a pilot. So presumably, we will begin to get those payments from that.
Yeah.
They're not paying that yet.
It's very complicated and, I'm not even sure I understand it entirely because it depends on how the pilot agreement is written, and they've been written a couple different ways for the rest of the pilots. Ultimately, they are supposed to be paying, they will start paying their pilot agreement when basically they're approved, when they have the C of O. Between the time they start the project and they end the project, technically, I believe for the most part, they're supposed to be paying the IDA whatever they would have been paying in taxes.
With that project.
Yes. But in several cases, that didn't happen because it wasn't added or taken off the assessment roll in the correct way. But in that case, they were just paying taxes directly, like the city, they paid to the city instead of paying for the IDA given to the city, so.
Because that one was approved. That's okay.
Yeah, you've got that one, you've got SEC 7, which is the food processor down on Dot Street. You've got, Pocketbook Factory, which hasn't opened yet, so, you know, that'll start. You've got the Crescent Building, that was just recently approved, so.
But it'll be a couple of years before we get anything much.
Probably, yeah.
Is there anything else that we need to do as the council?
Send me on vacation. No, I mean, I think, you know.
I think it'd be good if you start also giving us your personal opinion. I know it's a very, accountants in general, it's a tough spot to be because you are a bearer of bad news, you know, even if you want it or not. But I'd like to hear, like, how is the parking going? Like, we did a lot of big changes. In your opinion, was that good? I mean, I see the figures, the numbers are down.
I don't know. I mean, I can look into something like that more specifically, but, I mean, I think, you know.
I mean, right now, Front Street is 72.
Yeah, I think so. But, yeah, no, I mean, I think
And the
obviously
budget is 5.
that should help revenues down there, I would imagine. And
Mm.
we said we were gonna track them, so we'll track them.
Yeah, it's good
Be
to,
able to
yeah, I'm
compare.
just saying, like all of us, we need to track those. You know? How are we changing policy here with the parking? We need to make sure this is working.
Well, we have a parking committee too, so between finance and parking.
Yeah, well, the finance people are looking. So. Mhm.
Okay, anything else, Tom?
Yeah, those changes really haven't been made yet, so.
The permits were.
That's the only change we made so far, and that's, yes, made a little increase, but all the others have not having that effect.
There has been an increase in staffing though,
Definitely one.
for enforcement,
Yeah, we heard.
Right.
The consultant.
Okay, yeah.
which we expected to see an increase in revenue.
Yes. We budgeted on the assumption that there would be an increase because we were fully staffed there. And I believe we also budgeted making an assumption that the new meters would kick in the second half of the year.
So, but we're not charging more though. This is the new, other thing of policy. We're not charging more the third and down until all the machines go up, right? The new, correct?
I don't know what the parking committee.
Not decided.
That's what they, yeah.
That's
I-
a decision that you
I don't know,
collectively will make.
yeah. We'll see.
Is there anyone with their hand up there?
I have my hand up.
They have.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Yes, up here, Lloyd.
So the deferred tax revenue, you said it was 12%. I'm sorry, I didn't get the name of that account. What's it offset by? Deferred tax revenue.
It's not quite that straightforward, but basically you'll see a line in the budget called, prior year taxes.
Prior year tax.
Could be the second revenue line if you're looking at the budget.
Going to be prior year taxes.
And that number can either be a positive or a negative depending on what the deferred revenue calculation should have.
Now, we have payments due on the bonds. I guess it's the serial bonds that are going to be due in June.
The,
And what the interest are both probably
The bond anticipation notes will all have to be paid off in
Completely.
June. Well,
The interest or just the principal, the added principal.
some have principal, some don't. They all have interest. They all get paid.
Oh, it's multiple notes.
It's multiple notes,
I got you.
multiple borrowings. The bonds, so the serial bonds, long-term bonds, those have different payment schedules depending on when they were.
No, I can see that. It's on your statement.
Yeah.
So out to 239, adding on more is it? I mean, that's a 20 something, 25 years, I guess, if I can do my arithmetic. So is that set in stone? We're not going to be any more serial bonds, or they're going to drop off as they mature?
They drop off as they mature. We will no doubt be, as they mature, or even before, there are gonna be other things that we're gonna have to borrow for.
You think you're going to have to borrow?
Yeah, we're absolutely gonna have more borrowing, both short-term and long-term. The short-term borrowing may be less than what we borrowed last year, but we're still gonna have to borrow because we don't have the cash flow to cover waiting for the grant disbursements. And then an example for this year, I don't think we're gonna have any significant new long-term borrowing, but we did approve the purchase of a, pumper truck for the fire department. So that was supposed to be delivered this year, so nearly I would have to borrow for it this year, but, you know, they're not happy about it, but I'm not happy about it, that it got delayed, so it's not until
I
2026.
won.
So I can put that off for a year.
Good.
Yeah.
So the next payment is what, June?
Yeah, so basically what happens with the bond anticipation note is whatever your date, it's for a year, whatever your date is, you go out the day before basically and borrow what you need so that you have the money to pay off that one, and then that's what you have left.
Okay,
Yeah, basically.
okay, so the 300,000 came off the notes, and obviously not the bonds, right?
Yes.
So that's already been paid, so it's not 7.5, it's more accurate than 7.2.
I don't know what the 7.5 and 7.2
Didn't
are.
that the bonds on your financial statement for 24? Wasn't that,
I know,
We
that's
have
no
one.
problem. Okay, we have another button. I'll come back. We can follow up with that.
Crystal had a-
Yeah, we have one other question in fact.
oh, this is not an open meeting, if you're not gonna let me speak.
Yes, well,
It's fine, but if you wanna have a not open meeting, then you run it your way.
Crystal, we have another question in the back.
Yeah, with the pilots that are being granted, the IDA asks the applicants to provide the benefits that they're gonna give to the city, but there doesn't seem to be any analysis as to what the burden is gonna be to the city, and I'm just wondering if the city is planning on the additional need for services and other, infrastructure uses here in the city that all of these new projects are going to create that aren't paying their full township.
Yeah, I mean, it's a conversation we've had with the IDA multiple times in terms of how do you try and measure that. I don't think anybody has a perfect solution for it.
So there was a presentation that, was out in the meetings that I went to, where a municipality had a template that they used to try to get at exactly what you're talking about, like, increase enrollment in schools, that kind of thing. And so, I know that Mike was looking at that,
Mhm.
and I have asked for that information, as you know, more than once.
Mhm.
But it is difficult to estimate, but I think there should be some attempt to look at what exactly is the impact, even if it can't be tightly defined, but there should be some discussion of that.
No, it makes no sense if it's a negative for the city. I mean, what's the point?
Well, that's good
More
one.
burden on the city. Fair enough.
We just didn't get a veto.
All right, so any other
Veto.
questions
So
here?
the only thing I would say to all of you is the IDA meetings are open to the public. You should attend and speak up, and the public can speak. So, we canceled our meeting this month, I think. Our next meeting is, I guess, the word May.
Is it the first Wednesday of every month?
It's the first week of May, the first week of the month. Keep an eye on the IDA schedule, and I believe there is going to be a discussion of another pilot application at the next meeting. So that's the appropriate place.
Which one?
We have one person,
Jennifer.
this is Jennifer. Anyone with their hands up in TV lines?
I had my hand up, but the time has passed.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, Sorry. All right, anything else?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Heather, we appreciate it. Thank you for alleviating these concerns.
Some concerns, not all of it.
But thank you.
You should all have some.
All right.
To the cabinet meeting, and it had 3,000.
We're good to move on to the next.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about the council.
Big toe.
Oh, big
Now,
town.
that's the administration that they're looking to move forward.
Okay,
I think that will be coming.
Not all.
okay, we wanted to have a
One or
discussion.
two.
Excuse me,
Hold on.
we're talking.
Meeting's still going on. So we want to have a discussion. Anyone have any, raise any concerns regarding Big Towel?
Well,
Well,
yeah,
we have to talk about the electricity use and how that gets paid for.
That's the
what
concern.
the fees are.
Right, I
Yeah.
think Dominic is here as well, so.
well, all the fees have been going up. We're trying to raise the fees because of more
But
income.
Chris, Chris not done information of the two contracts, and they're quite different.
Okay,
So I didn't bring that. no.
So, yeah, in essence, what it means that, the previous one was 200 for the electric per month and
was it per month or total?
Well, it-
no, it was the paying per month. They were paying per month and 50, it was just, so 23, 24, it was 50 per month and 200 for utility per month for Oakdale, correct? Crystal?
Are you,
Yes.
I think she's on.
Okay.
It's on the phone.
Big Towel.
No,
Representative.
Crystal. I thought it was Crystal.
So,
No, Crystal doesn't come.
no, not that Crystal.
Okay, so the proposed is to be 350 altogether for the 7 months, not to split every month. And forget and not to pay electricity.
350 for 7 months seems very low.
350 for 7 months. Is the Big Towel representative online?
I believe Kelly was.
Kelly, sorry.
yeah, I'm here.
Is this, we just want to make sure we're on the same page here. Is it 350 a month or 350 total?
350 a month, which would 200 of the 350 would cover the base cost of electricity, which I discussed with Liz, and she said it would be easier for the youth department to just have a flat fee. And as I suggested in my email, I'm happy to have a contingency in the agreement that if we egregiously go over, but I also shared with you guys the things that I'm using, which are very low wattage, that I'm happy to pay the difference per month and can be in touch with Liz about that.
Okay, so Crystal was saying that it was not per month. It was, you remember in the emails?
And that's why we're having this discussion. Is it per month or is it total?
So according to the attorney.
According
it was
to,
not.
I think it's per
Let me
month.
see if I can.
Well, what are you spending?
But we can get that straight.
I'm happy to pay $350 a month because I think it reflects the amount of infrastructure that is there on site. There's no flushable toilet, there's no heat. Before this, there was no electricity. And I also invested into the property of Oakdale, an all-season hydrant that my company invested over $2,000, which is actually an asset to you guys. So this is kind of going off of what I think is based off of the fees that also the paddle company uses. I'm happy for you guys to look at also, redesigning your fee structure. And it's, it's up to you guys. If you guys want me there, I'm happy to be there. I can also go somewhere else if this isn't working.
So Kelly, from what we've been discussing here, a lot of other members, they felt that we should have, I think also Ronnie and Duan, they brought up having a smart meter. I know I just had it at my home. They're not, I think the utility company pays for it actually. And they're a lot more accurate. So we know exactly how much it is because having estimates, it just won't be accurate, and you may be overpaying. So would that be
but
something?
I'm happy for those funds to be contributed to the youth center, to the Oakdale Park, to the maintenance of the park. I know it, you know, I honestly, this is not really my solution. I wish Liz were able to attend. This was her solution, as her, like, her department doesn't have the bandwidth to sort of oversee the exact utilities. She really asked me to not agree, or at least this was her suggestion. So I feel like this is something that Liz should weigh in on. I don't even feel like it's my place to say I can do that.
No, I'm just saying, let's just say we talk to Liz.
I'm sorry, she's saying that this was Liz's solution, was the flat fee.
Yeah. No, I think we need to find a way to just.
Yes, so I'm just asking you though, Kelly, if we do, if I can talk to Liz and see what, if she's okay with it and everybody else. But will you be willing to put this, pay what, if we have a smart meter, in other words, to reimburse us exactly like that way?
Of course, yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Is there like another, does anyone else use this space other than yourselves during that?
No.
No.
It's winter.
Does anyone else use the space, Kelly, other than your group?
We collaborate with the library in November, who has their annual chestnut roast, and we also collaborate with the Plunge. But other than that, no, unless I know, I don't know if there's another person interested.
Does the Oak Hill have its own separate utility bill? I'm assuming its own account there.
We need to ask these questions.
To Liz.
The voting, I
Fair
don't
enough.
think we can vote tomorrow. Also, so if we separate those two, if we separate the monthly fee and, the utility you pay it directly. Then we have the monthly fee that we have to see the figure of, if it is 200, so what is it, 150? 150 a month?
Right.
I think, how do you guys feel about that?
I have to look at, I don't think we have to vote on this tomorrow.
No, we don't have to,
Right.
but we discussed.
Crystal have gone through. So I think when we have our meeting tomorrow, we can have Crystal walk us through the differences year over year.
We
All
can
right.
talk about that.
We'll talk about that. Anyone else have any other comments?
Yes.
Oh, hold on one second. Dominic, someone hasn't spoken yet.
Thank you. Kelly, I got a question, but can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Have you checked with code enforcement, because you're gonna have to get a permit and you're gonna have to submit an engineer if you're gonna be doing the work, connected with code enforcement to see what the cost is gonna be for you to install, the conduit, the electric, the electric box and everything externally? Have you contacted them and submitted a engineer plan?
Well, it wouldn't be an electric box. It would just be outdoor outlets on the outside of the clubhouse. And when it's on city property, when in the past, when I did the installation of the water, it doesn't need a permit from Craig because he's a city employee.
My understanding is electric, any electric into the city building needs a permit and a plan, especially if it's done by a third party.
Well, of course, I definitely would probably use whatever electrician the city already uses, and I definitely would rely heavily on Liz and, the city actually to say where the best places are for the outlets. I haven't begun the process because I didn't know if I would get approved, so no, I haven't submitted anything yet.
Because, the cost would be between $2,000 and $2,500 to do what you need to do, or even more. Because it has to make sure the meter is going to make sure that whatever heating units whatever you need are going to be using has to correlate to the amperage and everything that's being installed. Especially from what's currently.
I'm not using a heater. It's just for safety lighting and for mats to melt snow to avoid slips and falls.
Well, doesn't the mats generate heat?
Very, very low amount of heat. I sent you all the specs if you want to take a look. They're in the email.
Right, yeah, but I'm saying, I think you're still gonna have to do an engineering plan, but I would maybe contact Craig just to confirm. And you're saying So Liz is negotiating with you, so is this considered revenue for the youth department, if Liz is negotiating?
Well, she doesn't know that.
I don't think it's youth department revenue. Just Liz is my main point of contact, as Liz, the youth department oversees Oakdale Park and is in charge of the maintenance. So she's just my main contact before the council. But I
That
write
would be
my
a Liz.
checks to the city of Hudson.
Yeah, that would be a Liz question.
Okay.
That would be a Liz question. Yeah, okay, Joe,
Kelly, hey. So I had a good time with you yesterday. Thank you. That was fun. Contractually, are you required to carry insurance?
yes,
I'm asking Kelly.
sorry.
Can you, I mean, how much are
Yes.
you carrying? And that's an expense for you.
Yes, it is. I do my own insurance.
So, I mean, this is part of what she's, in order to be there, she's trying to comply with all these various things.
Yes,
And, I mean, she's carrying the $3 million in insurance. I think she's spending over.
It's strange. Kelly, that's actually one of the questions that Crystal had when she did the compare, was the change in the insurance coverage. It went down from 3 to 2
So that,
year over year.
Yeah, I responded to her. I don't believe you were on the email though. I think that was an error because it was an old draft from the first year. But I carry a 3 million policy.
So, and you're saying it's $350 a month? Can you, because I
Yes.
see the email here, because it seems to me, maybe the attorney did not understand that correct, or it would be better if your resolution is more clear. Because it seems to me that there's a confusion on that. $350 per month. 7
I
months.
can write to Crystal again and just double check. I like drafted it and I'm not a lawyer, so I had sent it to her. So maybe like what you guys
it needs
saw
to
was.
be.
okay, so, right, it should just say three, I mean, that was one of our questions, so it should say $350 a month. And
$350 a month plus the utility separate.
plus the utility is separate,
I don't know.
and and like, as you said, Kelly, any overage beyond the $200 a month, you're willing to reimburse this youth department. Right? That makes
Yeah,
sense?
that's what I said. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. Cool. Anything else? Anyone else? All right. Anything else on this issue? Going once, going twice? Sold. All right, next, let's move on to the next one. Fun and excitement is the event request forms for 2020, 2025.
So
Forgot my glasses.
So,
Thank you very much.
I don't have the email that you sent back to you later.
All right, it's okay, there's only a couple additions to the, so,
we can go for them.
yeah, we'll go through them, I'll tell you. I think there's like, there's 3 additions. There's 4 additions, there's 5.
What are they?
On my email.
So
Why don't you forward me to them?
That's part of why they are.
the desired funding, I don't see it in all the organizations. So I see it only on the Hudson Family Reunion and the family variety.
The thing that I have is desired funding, the electronic version I have has desired funding for.
Yeah, I think we're better off looking at the electronic.
Yeah, that's still.
Yeah, it's easier to look at, actually.
So, did you send me the email?
The final report? No, that was, where is that? Summary of event plan.
So what I did was I took the electronic file and I inserted a column and I added in whatever they've done in the prior year.
Oh, good. Oh, speaking of which, yeah, I do have printouts. Please.
Oh,
Yeah.
you have printout?
Yeah, I basically-
This is last year's.
I
Oh, no, I know.
This is like.
It's not, but I can't find the one you have for this year. Where is it?
Single page.
Oh, okay, I got it.
You
This
say
is-
there are 450. Hudson Eye Film Festival Orchestra, those are important.
All right, does everyone, you have the electronic version now?
Yeah, we all have it.
Yeah, I've always had the electronic.
You have the updated one.
Okay, let's just go from the first.
They're at the bottom.
Yeah, because I want to paste them into, because I was working on the one.
All right, here we go, let's go. Is everyone there? Everyone's on the same page?
I think last year what we did is we started from the big items. Maybe do we want to do that again? The most important events. Yeah, they're all important, I'm just saying.
Well, let's just go through, let's just run through real quick about who's here, who's compared to last year, and then what they're requesting. So we have Hudson Family Reunion. They received money last year. We gave them $1,000 last year. This year they're requesting $3,500.
I think
You see that?
Yes, but the desired funding is 3500.
Yeah.
And last year we gave them 1,000. If we want to continue with that, we can just keep it at the same level for now.
Okay. Well, let's see who's different. From
Bindlestiff,
Bindlestiff is new.
well, they're not new, but they didn't have anything last year.
They didn't have anything last year.
So they are asking for 4,000.
4,000.
Okay, next we have
The library
the library,
is asking for
5,000.
5,000. So on this one,
So the ghostly
while
cat.
I think, yeah, ghostly job. I think it's great to support the library, but we're already paying $400,000 in taxes.
Right.
In revenue from our own funds, so I don't think we need to be taking money out of. Let's remember.
Just can't
it's
afford it.
going to be promoting tourism. I'm not seeing that.
Okay, fair. Perfect 10, which I believe is new.
That one, that is a fundraiser. They're doing a soiree fundraiser.
Oh.
For Perfect 10.
Okay,
And
they're asking us for money.
they're asking us to give them money to put on their soiree. And it's,
So that is
summer
different.
fundraising event at a private estate. I'm trying to see the whole thing. It's like.
It's not an
We hope
event.
to have 125 at 250 per person. This is a very high-end fundraising event, and I do not see why we need to contribute money
Yeah.
to step it up.
It's not
going to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so by definition, these should be public events. open to
Yes,
all,
exactly.
With no
Yes.
fees. So.
Yes,
yeah,
so that's
I mean,
a no.
And maybe that's our,
Mhm.
maybe I should have said that on the application, maybe there's too much of a given, but okay.
Yeah,
Back Day asking for 5, got 5 last year.
yeah, we should give them 5.
Fine.
I think we need the 5.
Galaxy, are asking for 8. I think they asked for 8 last year. as
We
well,
gave them
maybe
750.
Yeah, so that's good for me.
Hudson, which was,
The other, I'm not quite sure what this is. It's a storytelling.
this is,
It's folkloric storytelling, And I don't know whether it's an actual public event or what it is. Couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, I can make.
It has 3 event dates, 20, 21st, 22nd. 20, 21, and 22 of June. So I'm not really sure.
Community theater productions provide a space of commonality and bonding.
Where are you?
I'm column
I don't
W,
find the description.
theater productions.
How much are they asking? Oh, we don't have that.
Hamlet Hotel. They have not approached anyone else for funding.
Yeah, so, very large banners that will grace Fairview Avenue, South Third. These are to be placed as soon as possible, from the list of what we need to pay for. We ask for assistance in payment of the seamstresses who will be sewing many outfits for 20+ persons. For background script, which will not have access to. Yeah, I'm not quite sure where the event is going to be, but it does appear to be a public event.
Okay, we could say like $1,000.
Yeah.
Can you just see where it is, to make sure it's ADA compliant, because we don't want to be in a
Well,
situation, right?
we did say on the form that it must be ADA compliant.
So we can check it out.
We said that we wouldn't fund anything that's not ADA compliant.
Okay, if we don't know where the location is, then we don't know if it's ADA compliant, right?
True.
So how can we confirm?
Hold on. Please hold. I mean, if this is a question we need to go back to them with, so.
Okay, where are we now?
All right, so we're at DOT at we don't know, it's a question mark. But
Yeah,
that
that is.
Right, but we have to confirm ADA.
We have to confirm ADA compliance. Out Hudson is looking for $5,000. They were not on the list before. Hudson Hall is looking for $5,000. We gave them 5 last year.
Mm-hmm.
Sankofa.
Yeah.
Sankofa is asking for 5, we gave them 3 last year.
Okay. Hudson Sloop Club. This is Waterfront Wednesday.
So, what are we thinking of for Sankofa?
I think 2,500. Isn't that what we gave them last time?
We gave them 3,000.
Oh, we gave them 3,000. Okay, I'm fine to give them 3.
Yeah.
If we have it.
Waterfront Wednesday, we gave,
How much did we say we were going to give to Hudson?
we didn't yet. They have 5,000. They're new, 5,000. Hudson Hall is also 5,000. Sloop Club's Waterfront Wednesday.
Wait, you're going too fast.
Sorry. They asked for $4,649.06. Sloop Club,
Why is that for?
Waterfront Wednesday.
They're waterfronts, yeah.
Isn't this all part of the contract? That takes all of these public events and stuff?
About $8,000.
Yeah, they do kind of contribution.
Yeah, but it's not the Waterfront Wednesday. It's what they're talking about is Waterfront Wednesday is like the festival. The 8,000 was just for people to get on the boat.
But this seems to be all about every Waterfront Wednesday throughout the summer. It's not about. I think that this is already in the contract.
I think that's too, you could be right. But I think the Waterfront Wednesday is actually the festival that happens at the gazebo in the park. And that the contract is just for him opening up the dock and letting people on the boat. Hudson Fest, so, and this was, I mean, last year we gave Waterfront Wednesday 2,500. Hudson Festival Orchestra. which last year we gave them 2,750. This year they're asking for 49. Next we have,
Maybe we could give them 3,000,
and let's say,
see if we have the money for that.
last, so film festival is, last year we gave them 1,000. They're asking for 5,000 this year, sure. Shoot for, yeah.
Hudson
And
Eye,
Hudson Eye is asking for 5,000. Last year we gave them 500.
no dues.
All right, so who is not on the list is,
Snoop, how much are you giving them?
well, hold on. Compared to last year, who's not on the list is, I don't see who we be on the list,
No,
right?
or Latinx, I think they were late.
Or Latinx
And Athens Lighthouse,
and the Athens Lighthouse,
beautiful brackets,
right, hold on,
and put some Halloween.
right.
And what next? So we have who will be 2,750, 2,500. So that makes it 5,250, 6,250, and 7,000. Is correct.
They must have asked for 4. So what are we gonna give them?
So we have extra 7,000, guys, correct?
Well, we have to put in the numbers.
Hold
I
on.
just calculated.
Al Hudson is new.
Okay, Hudson Family Reunion, we put in at 1,000. Film stuff, 2,000. Magda is 5,000 is 8. Beata is 1,000.
Yeah,
Out of Hudson, how much you took in,
They
right?
asked for 5.
How much were you going to propose?
What do we have? What do we have left?
we have 7,000.
Well, my numbers were down, we have, 5,000. St. Papa, we put in for 3, how much you took in for the school club?
Waterfront Wednesday, we had 2,500 last year.
See what that comes out to. So on my account right now, I'm at 27,800.
You're what?
I'm at 27,800
Okay.
on my companies. So we have, 2,200. Now, we might want to hold on to that.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
Latinx came in late last year.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, no, it came with our first meeting. It wasn't after the meeting.
Sorry?
It came within our meeting, the day of the meeting.
Right.
And now, I mean, that's way past the,
Right, they came post, absolutely, absolutely.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So in that case,
Sorry, folks.
Was it?
Yes, the deadline was 5 o'clock, right before this meeting, because we didn't want anything beyond the deadline.
Yeah, we can't keep doing this every year.
No,
We're past the deadline. This is it.
St. Papa, 4,000, so 3,000.
Hold on, I'm still not here. Come on. All right, let's run through it. Okay, so Hudson Hall, what'd you have?
5.
5,
Hudson Hall,
5,000, sorry, it was 5,000.
yes, 5,000.
Sankofa, what do we have?
I have 3,000 down there for 5.
That's fine. Hudson Festival Orchestra,
3.
They asked for 4,900, we gave them 3.
Waterfront Wednesdays, they asked for 4,006.
So, yeah, for the 2,500,
4,500, same as last year. Hudson Family Reunion,
give them 1,000, I think.
we gave them 1,000.
Yeah.
Hudson Film Festival, give them 1,000.
Yeah.
Basney, 800. Hudson Eye,
Alright.
500.
Can I ask a question about that?
Okay, hold on one second, let's get through this. Bindlestiff is what? They asked for 4, how much we give them?
Alright, 2.
2,000. Deanna is, they asked, for-
They asked for 5,000 and we put in 1,000.
and Al Hudson is how much?
I put in 3,000, they asked for 5.
Fine,
And that tallies to 27 days.
fair. All right, question?
Yeah, just about the Hudson Islands, just reading about it.
Yeah,
It sounds like it brings a lot of people into the community, and I'm just surprised there isn't more support for
Which one?
those kinds of events. Hudson Island,
Hudson Eye.
yeah, it's all about art, and they go to a gallery, to all the galleries, so it seems something like that should be supported.
Well, we are supporting.
I know, but it doesn't sound like what they could generate for that weekend, I would think, could be substantial for business owners. Anyway, that's it.
I thought that was the night glass full.
Yeah, we can increase the Hudson Eye.
we can increase the Hudson Eye,
Yeah,
so
we can
1,000.
increase that up to 1,000.
Thank you.
Is there a way to,
That puts us now at 28,300, so we have 1,700.
is there a way to, what if Wednesday is really kicking off and that it's the longevity of the summer? Is there a way to bump that a little bit?
I would like to see what's this little.
Yeah, so they asked for 46 more. We gave it 25, so we could. increase
Can we
that
make
to
it 3?
Wait, that's fine, 3,000,
3,000 or
Yeah.
3,500?
to 3,000, now we're at 28,800.
Yeah, 28,800. 1,200 left.
Hi, excuse
well,
me, can I
let's-
make a comment? Or, hi, my name is Meg. I'm on the Zoom.
Okay,
I just wanted
Yeah.
to check for Hudson Film Festival. I'm one of the representatives from the festival. How much were you guys discussing?
For the film festival?
Said
$1,000.
$1,000 at the film festival? Okay, I just wanted to put this out there that we're going into our third year. We have grown every year. And when you're talking about like getting money off of the tourism and Airbnbs, hotels, we have increased the amount of people coming every year. And our venue partners between Basilica, TSL, Story Screen, Park Theater, we are also increasing that, which means we can increase programming. So we have the opportunity, much like the gentleman was saying about Hudson Eye, to generate more income or revenue in the community. So I just want to kind of point that out because we are growing and we appreciate the support from the past year, and we, just.
Well, I don't know, are you guys okay making it 1,500 and then the 800, which is Dalmatian, we make it 200, an extra 2, so it becomes 1,000.
What are you saying?
Well, Dalmatian only asked.
They only asked for it.
Oh,
So, and
what else is not even? So film festival, do you want to make it another 5? 1,500? 1,500,
1,500,
okay.
It's already.
now we're
And then we have
29,300.
29,300. We have 700 and we can give some more.
I mean, Hudson Halloween, we haven't heard from.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's a couple we haven't heard from.
We don't have to give it
We don't have to
away.
keep all the way. I say
Yeah.
we just stop.
Yeah,
at this
just save
point.
it,
Leave it at that.
because there might be some incidentals.
$700.
Just leave it at that.
Yeah, we don't have to give it all away right now. There's someone else comes back. Okay, yes.
It's just a general question. It's like the woman was saying with the film festival, she's increasing traffic in Hudson every year. It seems to me that's important. That's
Well, that's what
great
we
for the
tried.
business.
That's what we tried
But
to.
there should be, we are so grateful you are here. We're gonna give you more than what you. Because they're generating that much revenue in the city by more people being here and shopping. We should be supporting events like that. That's
And so.
where our bread and butter is to run the city.
Okay, so the process here is that the Board of Ethics and Enforcement
Right.
allocated $30,000
Okay,
to support community events.
okay,
Everybody was given an opportunity to apply.
Yeah.
That's what we got 30,000.
Okay.
And so we try to distribute it as best we can, like to events that are actually public events. So,
Yeah.
no private fundraiser at 250 per person, we're not going to support that.
Okay.
And then we just try to be fair in giving the monies out to these different entities. That's what.
Okay.
And we have,
Some that are.
yeah,
contributing
like
to the
Flag
city's
Day,
funds.
like Flag Day
Yeah,
and
Flag Day
Hudson
is-
Hall, which
Flag
are
Day is
having
fantastic.
thousands and thousands of people.
And that brings the community that has lived here for 40 or 50 or 60 years, that's
So
their.
that's actually, it hasn't been
Just
that
celebrate.
long. It hasn't been there.
No.
It's only been in effect for about 25 years.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the people who have lived in the community.
Right, but I'm saying Flag Day
Right,
is
Flag
not
Day.
something that's 50 years old.
Yeah,
Flag Day started in the 90s.
most of these organizations
I'm
have
saying it
tried
brings
to
the
pass.
community
No,
together.
of course it does. So
Isn't that a good idea?
All these events. Yeah.
the groups that were giving funds to.
Flag Day is something that.
No, we understand. Also understand
Yeah,
that,
hang on, let me just read through.
I'm sorry.
Let me just read through to the groups who are giving funds to, okay? Hudson Family Reunion Committee, which is a street festival.
Mhm.
Fiddleston Family Variety, which does a lot of things around town. Flag Day Parade, Fashion, Domination Day. Diabba, which is a folkloric, folk theater thing over a 3-day weekend. Out Hudson, which is our June Pride Parade. Hudson Hall, which does incredible work throughout the city. Sankofa, we always support that. That's a multi-day event, festival.
How much do they get?
Most people actually ask for 5,000 because that's the cap.
Okay.
But we're giving them 3,000.
also understand that
That's a big festival.
the city also puts in resources for all
Yeah.
these events, such as DPW
Yeah.
and police and loss of parking.
I agree, but-
and things like that. Yes, no, we understand.
Based on the revenue coming in, there has to be attention to the business owners that are actually paying taxes.
Well, stories in Greenport though.
Well, the
Stories here.
others, let me finish the list. The Hudson Sloop Club, they run the Workfront Wednesdays throughout the summer, and that's what that's for. Festival Orchestra has been a big success. Then they asked for 4,900, we allocated 3,000. Film Festival, we are giving 1,500, up to 1,000 last year. Hudson Eye, up to 1,000 from 500 last year. So we try to be balanced in what we're doing.
And there's nothing that you feel like you can cut off a little bit because maybe another group is doing a better job promoting Hudson than another group is. Look, the city, it sounds like, isn't doing very well financially. Is that so?
I think it's a fair statement.
Okay, so it seems to me whatever can bring people into Hudson, which will increase the revenue and the interest in Main Street. That's what should be done by the city, is to help promote more of that, because otherwise you're gonna lose all of the shop owners and dive Hudson back into yet another impossible period. We have an opportunity to take it in a new direction where it can support itself and we don't have to live off grants anymore. I mean,
We have $30,000.
Yeah, you only have to spread it across the best you can for all the events. And
but that was a general statement.
Right, thank you.
But it seems to be more money should go to some. One's a 3-day event, one's a 1-day event.
So in your opinion, what are the events we should cut and the ones that we should give more money to? In your personal
So
opinion?
if they're helping
No,
us
I'm asking you, in your personal opinion,
Yeah.
which ones you think we should cut? Or reduce the funding? Because you understand, as you have your own opinion, we can have 30 people from these other events and say, no, they disagree with you. So we kind of have to reflect what most of the people want. And that is a very hard task to do. So tell me what we should cut from this, that it can be more, fair.
Yes. Well, I think you start on those that are receiving the most and evaluate what those are and say, okay, are they contributing to the city in a positive way or not? And maybe it makes sense to shift some of the money from one organization that maybe doesn't need as much.
What's your name, please?
Richard Cohen.
Oh, Richard Cohen.
Yes.
Oh. All right.
I think that's.
So what are your recommendations as Vicky asked?
I think it can't be mine.
Okay, the two that have the most
Yes,
are Hudson Hall at 5,000 and Flag Day at 5,000. Do you want to cut money from one or other of those?
those are the only two that receive 5,000. I thought you said Hudson Hall.
Hudson Hall.
For winter walk?
And I
Winter
thought there
Hall.
were some more that were receiving
No.
$5,000.
No,
Which one do you want to cut?
Which of those two do you want to cut?
Hudson Hall, you can't do that. They should be supported. They do a lot for their community.
Do you want to cut Flag Day?
Flag Day, I don't know. No, you can't do that.
we had that conversation about Flag Day, and I think
Yes, I-
half of the city of Hudson was here
Yeah.
complaining about
Right,
it. So.
a few years ago, I tried to suggest taking Flag Day, Hudson out, and
Yeah.
I can't remember what the other one was. And distributing the monies, it was Juneteenth actually. And distributing the money sort of more equally across them because Flag Day is established and people were very angry. They did not want anything touched on Flag Day.
No, you can't. That's.
So, I mean, but that's, but see, that's, I'm sorry, I forgot your first name again. Rick. Yeah, I mean, that's the conundrum here, yes. Most people are gonna ask for 5,000 because that's the cap. But actually, we have to go below that for all of them. And so you start getting down into things where we're giving them 1,000 or whatever, 3,000 for Out Hudson, which is a big parade day. The Black Arts Festival is multi-day. That gets 3,000. So it's not, we do take those things into consideration.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
We done?
Hmm.
Everything not done?
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Yes, motion to adjourn.
Lauren, have a meeting.
Second,
Motion,
Yeah.
second.
thank you.